As we all know, the customer experience in banking has evolved a lot. From walking into a bank branch to now sitting at home, using our phone and quickly finishing everything on our phone. There has been a lot of change gradually, but over the years it has happened. And the change is significant. And every time there is something different when you walk into any bank branch. So now to discuss what is going to happen to customer experience in bank branches in the future, let's take a look at this next session that will be moderated by Richa. Richa, over to you. Why don't you also introduce our panelists?
Thanks, Vidya. So welcome Rakesh, welcome Hareesh. So I know that I'm just going to introduce you both to the audience as well and to each other. So Rakesh Mandlamudi is a leading industry professional in a digital banking function. He has more than 15 years of experience in building digital banks and implementing digital financial services. In the past, Rakesh has served HDFC Bank as Assistant Vice President, and he's also worked with State Bank of India, where he was responsible for the end-to-end implementation of an innovative digital platform to improve customer experience, which includes the creation of a digital banking universe with flavors of banking, investments, and e-commerce. And we have Hareesh, who is an industry veteran with more than 23 years of experience. He's been in IoT and embedded semiconductor industry. He started his career as a design engineer for defense electronic systems and moved on to lead the product development and product marketing in various industry verticals like automotive and energy, industrial, consumer banking, and retail segments as well. So welcome to this panel discussion.
Thank you.
So as you know, as a consumer myself, it is quite interesting to see how we went from actually going into a bank and doing everything to now doing most of those things online. And within the branch perspective itself, we now have like self-help desks, we have kiosks, we have micro branches, wherein a lot of information is directly, given to the customer or relayed to the customer instantly without they having to really wait in lines and queues anymore. And then we have the metaverse now, where everything is and will be virtual, yet it will also be real. So it's like one thing is now leading to the next thing. So in the same process, we will also lead on to, understanding from you, Rakesh, what you think right now, how customer experience has evolved and is evolving with the current banking system.
Yeah, thanks Richa, thanks Hareesh for having me. So given the background or the different scenarios I've been working with, like traditional banks, digital banks, neobanks, and fintechs. So what I've always observed is like cracking the customer experience nut is very, very tough. So, one experience may suit some certain segment of customers, but, it may be a pain point for others. So we always try to arrive at a kind of a balance, right? So when you're looking at digitizing the customer experiences, right? So it's not just giving a very soothing look and feel of the interface, but actually it's more to do with the background. So the amount of digitized processes that you have at the background, right, is what actually creates a more personalized and very intuitive front-end experiences. So like you rightly mentioned, with evolution of your Jam Trinity, right, your Jandan accounts, Aadhaar and mobile numbers, you're able to actually open a bank account upfront. But are you really able to know the status of your account in real-time manner, right? So this is where banks are trying to improvise that experience. Else you will call your IVR number or you reach out to your nearest branch to again check like where is my customer experience? What happened to my account and all that. To solve that, like when I've been working with multiple fintechs who try to study the market, understand the real pain points of the customers, and then there's a huge war room created wherein we bring in different stakeholders, not just the product guys, but the operation guys, some design engineers and designers to really brainstorm on the problem statement and arrive at a framework wherein so that we can repetitively use it whenever new problem comes in, how we actually hunt the problem, how we solve it, and henceforth create a unique experience basically, right? So this is helping this new age new banks and fintechs actually to come up with innovative products and services, so that the entire journey, so it's like your digital native thinking, wherein like the entire journey starts online. Maybe you can shift to a different channel, maybe an internet or something, or if the same organization has a kiosk, right, you can get this to know the status there or complete the process then and there itself. So this is the entire shift that I've been observing in terms of tackling customer experiences and problems of late.
And Hareesh, what about you? What do you think about how do we handle customer experience, or how it's been evolving?
Okay. Hey, thanks, Richa, having me over here. And Rakesh, thank you very much for your good insights. Today the technology development is centered around three pieces, mainly in customer engagement, operational efficiency, and finally, which is more critical and important, is how do you create a value to your stakeholder, okay, or improve your bottom line. So to elaborate more on a customer engagement, it's critical for any financial institute to engage, retain, and actually continuous engagement of that customer is very much required. Along with that, actually, how do you attract a new customer? So all three things are very, very critical for any financial institute to go ahead and build the technology. And today, the digital technology and the customers are quite well versed with some of those digital technologies, and then they are trying to find out, hey, what is the new value the bank can create to us, okay, other than giving any information. To do that, actually, the bank has to come out with an innovative ideas. How do you reach more customer? Is there a possibility for them to put up more branches? It's very difficult for any bank to go ahead and put a big branch. Instead of that, actually, because of a lot of technologies which are coming to your place, as Rakesh was mentioning about the kiosk or any other format of a digital technology which is available, that means we'll be able to serve customer better, okay? But what kind of branches you have to put? Even though you can try to serve every customer, they think actually, hey, mobile your bank. But is it truly happening in that way? I know that actually we can do a lot of transaction through a mobile, but actually some of the information is required from a banker who has to be there in their place. The reason I'm emphasizing on the place, the location is very, very important. The branch being at IT hub, totally different than the business hub, correct? Because the business hub branch could deal with a different kind of inputs and to a customer, wherein a IT hub branch could be totally different in handling the customer, what information they are looking, and all those ones. So how do you engage those ones? Actually, those are where the digital can really play a role. And having a smaller branch which are digitally enabled, as Rakesh mentioned, actually using an Aadhaar to Jandan to create those accounts. Those are the transactional ways. But what customer is looking for is differently, hey, how do I utilize my money more better, or how do I grow my money more better? That's where actually the customer is looking, and this is where we'll be able to provide better information through more analyzing the customer. That's one part that would help customer to attract. So how do you retain customer, correct? And how do you bring more value to a customer? That means we need better insights of a customer. So they should not go around and beating the bush around the wrong customer and losing the important customer. How do you engage with customer? I think digital would enable them to understand what is the transactional method the customer is following, and how much is worth, how long, how many times is visiting. Better customer insights through an AI would also help in providing a better services to a customer. Actually, what would I notice over here? That's one way the technology will help. The second, which is critical, is an operational efficiency. So how efficiently you are using your staff, correct? Are they in one branch sitting 10 people? Are they serving better to a customer, correct? Are they solving all the customer needs? And this would optimize them to the branch size also, because more insights, the more insights you get in, so that actually you'll come to know, hey, do you need a bigger branch or do you need a smaller branch, where you need to be, how much the particular branch is helping you to transact or attract more customer, what kind of business is doing. All those things are possible today because of the technology is in place, and you have put in multiple camera to understand how many customers are walking in and all those ones. With all these ones, finally the bottom line, the way the bottom line increases is, again, you might reduce your branch size, but again you put up more branches in different places, and you might need a lesser manpower to operate those branches, even though you can increase, but reachability becomes much bigger. So the kind of country India, it's the vast country, correct? 650k villages. Today, instead of actually every customer walking to an HQ or an taluk level, is there a possibility for us to reach out to a tier 2 or a tier 3 cities and have more branches and digitally served? Is there a possibility for one person to operate that entire branches using some of these digital technologies like a chatbot and all those ones, which would finally help organization to improve their bottom line also. So that's where actually I feel the technology is very relevant, and the technology is coming into a place. I think more and more digital technology is being adopted and used by a people. Customer would not look for a technology or a bank anymore for a transactional purpose. They would look for a bank towards hey, how do they utilize their money better? And they would look for those kind of advisors according to my experience, Richa. And
I think that is one very important thing you said, that today customers want to be able to do anything quickly, and I think one of the things is that you have a whole day to do things. When it's maybe online or through kiosks, you don't have to have and right now our banks usually work between a set hours, and people are like, okay, no, but I want I get free at 6 o'clock in the evening, I want to go at that time and get this thing done, which is probably possible for them when they have kiosks or even micro branches or even online for their information. So I think that's a really good point you made. And in this case, I think banks have been, although they've been traditionally offline, but they also have a very strong background where they can do have an online adoption for almost every service they provide. Nowadays, including signatures as well. So I mean, that's definitely one of those things that can be moved online and omni-channel, not just one channel, not just one place. So it's definitely one of those things that a bank can do. And in this case, I think it is always, it's a customer is closer to their banks and available, and the bank is available to them whenever they want it to be. Which means that, now, so coming to you, Rakesh, you've spent time both within banks and fintechs. I'm assuming within similar roles. Would you do something differently now as compared to, if you had to go back into a digital transformation role in a bank? And this is mainly for the banking leaders who are watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I earlier said, the way to actually redesign things plays a vital role. Like Hareesh was saying that, technology is at disposal now. See, traditional banks have emerged from your typical, bookkeeping or your physical copies of ledgers to, automated way. And then many banks are actually transitioning or trying to utilize the data to create a 360-degree view of the customers. Many banks started having their data science team, which are kind of working on models like, average revenue per customer, lifetime value. At the same time, the experiences on digital channels. Are there any dropouts? How can I, follow the customer, when the dropping out is all happening? So take a very, mostly like neobanks, they take a very, very lean problem. Either it's one of the product lines or the service lines. They try to adopt it, try to understand the pain points across the entire service line. And like Hareesh was mentioning, it's important that every step that is redesigned should create value. Say today, when you are using WhatsApp, for example, so the minute a message leaves your WhatsApp app, so you have a single tick notifying something, double tick notifying something, then again a blue tick notifying something else, right? So this is the way, we are trying to see that every step or every, click what customer has initiated or triggered on be it digital channel or ATM or everywhere, it's captured. At the same time, bank can use the data to churn more and more value back to the customer. This is where the entire transformation is happening. So just to take this our conversation into a different track. So I've been talking to few practitioners during my last stint at Middle East as well. So not just for or like surrounding the entire branch with technology and all. There are different branch experiences being created by a few banks in US and UK, where they're converting branch like a coffee shop. So rather than you see a very serious banker, you can see a very relaxed person who comes, offers you a very nice, very fluffy chair, and then you discuss some financial matters, right, in a very soothing mood, and then you can tell, hey, how can I use my next $1,000, where I can invest and all. There's a bank in UK which started, it's a very pet friendly nation, so they said, bring your pets to our branch so that you can like make the pet walk a while, and then you come and complete your banking conversation. A few Korean banks have started something like a literacy lab, wherein like customers can get financial literacy. At the same time, they get educated on how to use the digital channels. At the same time, get deeper insights on their, financial data and investment. So this is again a different, phygital experience is what I call, right, should be brought into branches so that, customers, even if you walk into any bank, right, most of the times you say my ATM is not working. So bankers might be, knowing the correct information or not. Their system might not be providing the correct information. Then a lot of to and fro's happen and heated arguments starts. So all this, could be stopped wherein like you create a very soothing experience when customer walks into the branches. Yeah.
I think definitely keeping the customer in mind and all their things apart from just their banking information also helps sort of serving their interests better. In that sense, again, when we come to the metaverse, now this is a completely new age topic, I would say. It's not new per se. So Hareesh, when we talk about a customer and being the core of anything that we design or conceptualize using this user experience, as an industry player who's representing technology, how do you see, or do you see that now banks are actually using this as the core of their technology approach? Or do you think it is still, technology first and then the customer perspective comes into place? So, maybe you may have a better perspective, because a lot of these approaches would also be, restricted by the hardware specs, maybe price, that would play a crucial role in making such decisions.
No doubt. Yeah. Richa, you know quite well that actually, digital transformation is opening a new world of possibilities to branches. No doubt on that part. There are multiple technologies, and what kind of technologies will create a more value to a customer as well as to a banker. So this is where everyone would look for and to adopt that kind of a technology. There are multiple technologies like in metaverse, which is upcoming. Before that itself, there is a chatbot. 3 years back, actually, the people are not knowing the chatbot. Today, if you look at everyone is using a chatbot, at least be it in whether it's in web-based or whether it's in in branches chatbot. Actually, it's quite famous and people have started using. You look at that chatbot, the advantage what it brings, it will help customer to converse in his local language. Okay, tier 1 cities are okay, they'll be able to come and talk in English and do all those ones. Tier 2 cities is also a little bit okay, but what happens to the tier 3 customer where majority of the people are are there, and because of the Jandan, actually everyone is now actually having an account. Everyone would like to go and transact themselves. So instead of going for a person, if you are going to have future, actually, if you are going to have more on branches, wherein actually let's assume only one person is operating that entire branch. That means literally the whole branch is digital, correct? And is just one person is going to be an assisted over there. So during that time, if you are able to offer some services through a digitally on a conversational way, because for anybody it becomes difficult to go through that entire journey and select and go through that English or any other language which is there. the conversational AI would help them, because Harish will be able to converse in his local language and gives them comfortable for him to go ahead and ask those questions in a natural way. I need not to follow that method, because now the technology is improved and edge to cloud technology, which is very much required, correct? Some of the operations can happen at the edge, some of the operations can move towards the cloud and give him the better answer. That's where actually the customer is looking. I'm seeing that success already in an a conversational AI or a virtual sales avatar, actually what we are already looking. Before that, actually everyone was trying to use an information kiosk, but it is served only the tier 1 cities. Now tier 2, tier 3. So even the ATM is being operated by everyone because of the local language support. I'm seeing that actually, a lot of convergence towards in the ATM as well as any of these kiosks, how to use an existing infrastructure and convert. So metaverse, no doubt, actually it's a new technology which is going to bring in a more and more, realistic features to a customer and experiences to them. And I think definitely the customers are looking forward for those kind of technology to experience. And not only that, because in our country, we all know that actually every 100 kilometers there is a culture change, language change, food change. How do you keep them together, correct? How do you serve them together? So in that way, we will need those kind of a metaverse and virtual sales and any of those technologies for us to, serve the customer in a better way. I think the maturity level of a AI and the maturity level of an analytics, maturity level at a cloud is coming into a place to analyze in a better way. And along with that, actually, the strong backend connect from an networking organization is helping us to deliver in real time, the events or solutions to a customer, what I can say. To do all these ones, you also need a better hardware, correct? What kind of hardware is required? And is it affordable? That's what actually every customer will look. It's everyone get excited on looking at the technology or a solution, but they will also think actually, hey, what is the ROI on this one, correct? Is it affordable? First and foremost, what is an ROI? Okay, how much cost it is saving, or how it is helping me to do those operations better. So Intel is well placed over here. We have kind of a processor, actually what we are releasing. We are doing a workload consolidation. That means on the same hardware, you will be able to deliver a multiple workloads. I'll take example of a ATM itself. Can ATM convert going forward as an virtual sales avatar along with a cash transaction? Today, can ATM become an analytical, customer insights gathering machine? So yes, it's possible, and that's where actually we are seeing that workload consolidation. Instead of doing only the transaction money lending, can you go ahead and only money dispersing? You'll also be able to do that actually, hey, more analytics using the same machine, because the customer is standing in front of you. It will be able to get more demography of a customer. It can collect and all those ones and link that demography and understand better. And also the same machine can convert into a virtual sales avatar to sell a better of the bank information to a customer. So we see these once technologies are coming, and similarly Intel is also moving forward in getting into the newer workloads and providing a more value to a customer. Because that's how actually all our processors which we have planned is enabled to or equipped enough to run the multiple workloads, Richa.
Definitely. I think banking in that sense is very placed very well to be able to collect information from your customer and give information to the customer, as well as everything in between. It's not just about information, it is about, getting the work done. So I think banking in that sense is placed perfectly for, growing in with technology, keeping the customers in mind. So coming to you, Rakesh, what do you think now, since we were talking about the metaverse and where, digital universes where people are now moving towards, and this conversation has already started everywhere and across each industry, you can see this. So how do you think organizations are moving towards building these experiences for their customers?
So not just now, like 3-4 years back when a real digital evolution started happening in the banking, right? Indian banking sector, for example. So there were a lot of use cases and frameworks that were built using AI ML. Then few started using augmented reality, then virtual reality, right? So and then avatars, like Hareesh was mentioning, like a lot of people started coming up with avatars. So I feel metaverse is there, but I still think like ROI is a big question mark here. And then even we used to discuss this with a lot of product lines like credit card and all. So how about we give issue credit card online, or create a virtual branch, and then customers can walk in and we can help them with their PFM, like personal finance management, etc. For which like there are a lot of there was hardware challenge, then there was like data collection, then analysis, and then building up the right models for them. Few have tried, especially in certain segments like your high net worth individuals, wherein certain metaverse like worlds were created, customers were given Oculus like appliances, and then they were shown like how can your next 10 million turn out to be, what are the sectors where you can invest and all. But it is like there are different countries or a different geography where it is possible. Here I believe still we should we are yet to use the potential of a chatbot, like Hareesh was mentioning, like moving it from unassisted to a semi-assisted to an assisted channels. And then why not we use the video option in like WhatsApp as well. So there are services like your life certificate for senior citizens, and then getting an assistant of a person in a rural area who knows how to use WhatsApp and do a video call. How can someone sitting at maybe like 200-300 kilometers away where there is another branch, right? How can both converse online, use video chat, and get them agriculture loan approved? So I feel these are some use cases which are yet to be utilized by utilizing the existing technology itself. So it's there. Then again, the evolution of your digital money or a digital currency has to come in, where you want to bring in multiple use cases into your metaverse, right? So does your regulator support for that at this point or not? But yeah, a lot of experimentation is happening. We at an Indian banking sector, like we know what technology and the potential can happen, but we are still waiting for the outcome and the result, how others are also utilizing it. So JPMC has made the noise in terms of creating a branch in metaverse, right, currently. So most of the industrialists or digital transformation consultants are still studying the potential, and then how to actually create some viable use cases so that we deliver value, and then we retain customers and generate more revenue for the business. That's what where my stand is.
I think, metaverse is like a long-term solution. It's not something you can do immediately, but that is also a good point that, starting customers on what we have today and then building up to something that will happen maybe 10 years later. Yeah, I think that's a great view, and that's a great way to progress within the same line. So Hareesh, what do you think, since you interact with key stakeholders and around the virtual reality space, what are your thoughts on how channels are evolving now, and with metaverse being built around AR and VR experiences, with digital transformation offline, with digital kiosks maybe, for example, how critical do you think are they?
Because of it digitally connected, and no doubt actually there will be more innovations are coming, Richa. The kind of innovation coming from the startups is absolutely much bigger, and because of those innovations, I think there is a good possibility for any technology to be adopted much faster pace in reality, what we're noticing, because the digital transaction, actually whatever we are seeing, this pandemic has accelerated the adoption of a digital in every field. Okay, and especially the banking is unbelievable growth, actually what we have noticed, and I think India has become an example in digital transaction tier global, and thanks to that innovation coming from the startups. And this is where I feel suddenly actually 3 years or 4 years back, actually we were not talking about a chatbot, much about a chatbot. Today I think I can see a significant growth in the chatbot, At least actually it's a huge improvement on the web-based chatbot, and it is already converting into a edge, which is what actually we are noticing with a few banks adopting already. So that's where I feel the with the proper technology, backend support, there would be a newer way of serving customer, and the newer way will, those are the creates a better experience to a customer. That's what I'm noticing, and make their life much easier. I feel metaverse and the virtual sales avatar and all these ones will come into a forefront, but it won't take much longer. What I'm noticing, it's only thing the customer. One is customer should feel comfortable. That is one. The second, the bankers has to feel, hey, what is an ROI? Correct? Are they getting more customers, and how it is enhancing them in reaching more customers? All those ones are required. I think that together in this journey of our ecosystem, I think we'll figure out actually, hey, what is the value we'll be creating, and what could be the affordable solution for a customer. I see a bigger success over there, Richa.
I think it's a great point. But like even we are seeing with, we work both with chatbots as well as avatars, even kiosks for that matter. And we've seen, people are a lot more open to using chatbots a lot. Like I think at this point, chatbots are the most basic they expect from a website. If you go onto any website, they know, okay, there is a chatbot there. I can ask any questions whenever I feel like. And avatar is just an extension of the same thing. And to them, that's a different experience. That's a more novel experience, including, maybe different languages, having an animation in front of them. And a kiosk is another place where, I think they also are a bit unsure at the moment as to how to use this, how are they supposed to be involved in this. But then I think with the addition where, you can do so many things through the kiosk without having to really spend time waiting in lines. I think that's a huge thing for people. Not just waiting in lines, at any time of the day they can do this. I think that's one thing. Coming to our conclusion, so Rakesh, what is your conclusion in the whole concluding thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, creating an entire digital or a customer experience, maybe at branches or any other place, like when you call about banking or offering financial services. Number one is customers are expecting instant response and resolution. So banks are working towards improving that. Second one is like education. So you need to keep on, whenever something new is coming, some new service or product is coming, banks should ensure that they educate the customers not only about the product, but in terms of how to apply and, give them real-time feedback on that. Involve customers, in every process, digitization that you take. Nowadays, it's all about, we are looking at a data economy now, right? So you're designing something for the customers, so they have to be at the center of everything. That's where your design thinking and your empathy maps and all those things are coming into picture. My last words are use the existing technology to the fullest. And then, of course, have an eye or a foresight towards what's coming up in future and how to well utilize it so that more value and more customer satisfaction rates are generated. That's my bottom line.
I understand. Hareesh, any concluding thoughts from you?
Yeah. The omni-channel engagement is in place, because the customer is both digitally and offline and online, both are there. And omni-channel engagement, again, I'll emphasize on the location-based services, because the business area looks for a different kind of an experiences or solutions altogether, where the consumer are sitting over there maybe in the larger housing complex. So this is again, the location-based services are very critical to engage a customer, correct? So how do we make all these ones together? That's possible actually if you have a multiple branches and have a remote expert, correct? I'll call virtual sales avatar or a metaverse or whatever the technology actually which we are building, we can call them as a remote expert at any time. Actually, you can go and tap them and get whatever the solutions actually which you require or to serve you. I feel technology will continue to evolve. Technology will bring more features to them and engage in a better way to deliver values to an customer as well as to in branches or a banks, what I can say, Richa.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Hareesh. Thank you, Rakesh. We had a really good discussion.
Thanks a lot, Richa, for moderating the session. Thanks a lot, Rakesh and Hareesh, for your time. It was a wonderful session and thank you for your insights. Next up, we have a fireside chat session with Srimati ma'am from Indian Overseas Bank. Welcome, ma'am. And to moderate with this session, we have with us Sriram, who's the CEO and co-founder of DaveAI. Before we begin with the session, I'll quickly introduce you all to Srimati ma'am. So, Srimati is the Executive Director at the Indian Overseas Bank. She has over 35 years of work experience across categories of branches, from rural to metro, and she is well exposed to various verticals like branch operations, mid and large credits, human resources, risk management. She has worked across several locations in the country. Prior to IOB, she was serving as Chief General Manager at Canara Bank. Srimati ma'am has headed Canara Bank's prime corporate branch, credit wing and international operations. She was deputed to NABARD as Chief Vigilance Officer, during which she had additional charge at New India Assurance Company, State Bank of India and Bank of Baroda for varying periods. Srimati ma'am holds a postgraduate degree in commerce along with a master's in business administration. She is also a certified associate of the Indian Institute of Banking and Finance. Once again, welcome ma'am. And today, whatever she'll be talking, will be on her personal capacity, and all the views that she'll present during this particular conversation is going to be personal and does not represent the organization. Welcome once again, ma'am. Sriram, over to you. Please take this ahead.
Thanks, Vidya. Ma'am, it's a pleasure. Vidya's given a kind introduction. Thanks a lot for doing this again. I would, so we are through the course of this event or a series of talks, I would say, the attempt is to try and look at how banking has evolved. We are trying to talk, we're trying to do this slightly differently. We are talking to less technology people and we're talking to more and more bankers as much as we can. So because, we hear as technology audience, I think we tend to be too much biased just hearing the technology view. Sometimes it also sort of corrupts our perspective on how we look at some of the how tech can make an impact, right? We get too biased towards tech. So our attempt is to try and move away from that and talk about regular traditional banking fundamentals and see really what we are doing. Does it make sense or no? So this is extremely useful and I'm sure the viewers will appreciate that we have you here. So thanks again for doing this. I like what Vidya introduced, you have a diverse experience across functions, right? Across the breadth and width of it, from branch operations, in rural, metro, probably a very, very large, diverse management experience, human resources, vigilance. So you've sort of worn multiple hats and now you're at the helm of affairs here. How have you seen banking evolve? And we're talking about maybe 2 to 3 decades here. So how would be great to hear from you.
Thank you, Sriram. It's my pleasure to be a part of this conversation. Yeah, it's been not just 2 to 3 decades, it's 3.5 decades, 36 years to be precise. So it was the mid-80s I started my career. So today we are 22. The world has evolved, life has evolved, so has banking. A lot has changed from the time when we entered the banking. That decade was a year when the expansion in the public sector banking was happening. The Banking Service Board was started in 1980, and at one point of time, the banking to join as a probationary officer in a bank was supposed to be one of the coveted posts, and banking was completely 101% manual. If I even now think about it, the way we had a pen and a paper and the way we used to do every transaction, debits and credits, and doing manually, tallying your books at the end of the day, doing your balance sheets manually. From that time, slowly it evolved. Slowly, I remember the days when from manual to ALPM. We had something called the advanced ledger posting machines, and they were big things. There was a big resistance from the unions. There was a lot of fear about retrenchments. There was, from those periods, then we moved to packages called the bank, and we had various other versions. And then finally we moved to CBS. When we moved to CBS also, there was a lot of chaos. I mean, there was a confusion, the transition wasn't coming easy. And there was a big difference between that period with the private sector banks had come in between. The 90s, the ICICI Bank and the Axis Bank, the HDs, all of them came in somewhere in 90s. And we all moved to CBS in say early 2004, 5, that period, 6, that is the period. I still remember like the customers were annoyed and our people were perplexed and we were all at a loss, what is happening and all that. I still remember the chairman and managing director of Canara Bank coming and addressing all of us because we were all in operations and wondering why the hell is all this required. I remember the difference, the example he gave at that time was, he said, look, these private sector banks and they started with a 100% computerization. And the public said, he said, I will give you an example of starting a flight with your fuel tank full and trying to refuel mid-air. That's the difference, is what he said. We were all fueling mid-air. So we have gone through those days, come back, and from that period to then once the CBS settled, we thought that's it. We are there now, no more disruptions. And then came the real digital disruption that has come. This particular decade is a year of complete digital transformation. Collaborative working, the fintechs, the pay. I mean, its journey is quite exciting. That's what I can say.
Great, ma'am. Yeah, I think that example probably is a great anecdote on how it is when somebody looks at it from the outside. It's always easy to maybe pick inefficiencies and all of that, but you don't put it in perspective on certain advantages that new players have because you don't have these mammoth systems to rebuild and processes to change, right? I think it's a great anecdote actually. Ma'am, so physical branches changed, right? So when I look at it in terms of how banking was when I was a kid, it used to be something that was planned on the calendar, right? That today is a day where somebody in the family has to visit the bank, or it was considered a big activity through the calendar. I remember that, and now it's significantly changed. But we were speaking in this series itself to somebody who was also part of some of the branch operations bit in places like Nagaland and in Dharamkot and so on and so forth. So today we are still talking about a very small percentage, maybe 30-40% of people that we refer to, but the remaining 700-800 million people that we don't necessarily, I'm talking about tech audiences like us, right? Sometimes we sort of lose sight of that. So from your perspective, how important is still a physical bank branch, right? I'm talking about in a country like India, which is so diverse. So you have something like Bangalore, and then maybe 150 kilometers away, you have an entirely different demographic of customers. I know that your bank has created initiatives like Bank on Wheels, so you try to take banking to the customer. Would love to hear your perspective on the physical branch, right? And how probably do you think will that change also?
Yeah, your question about the prediction about the physical bank branches. Again, I would answer it in two phases. One, is it necessary today and immediate in the near future? And then would it be necessary in the medium term or in the long term? Today it's 100% necessary. As I said, we are evolving. Along with us, the public is evolving. The youngsters, say people from your generation and all those, I'm sure you haven't seen many times bank branches, you wouldn't want to too. Like my daughter, she jokingly tells me, I think the only, all that I remember about what a bank branch is when I tagged along with you as a kid. She says, I've never seen a bank branch after that. So the banks in India are now trying to cater to that population as well as cater to the other side. There are two other segments. One is the seniors, or rather the super seniors, who wouldn't be in a position to update themselves into all this digital banking and all that, and maybe it's not fair to expect that they would now learn everything and do everything. And then there is one very big chunk of population which is that illiterate are just literate, are just learning their way through the rural population, it will take them time. They are also adopting. They are adopting very quick. I'm amazed at the pace at which the adoption is happening at the small and rural places and other things. But again, it's a transition. It's a time this going to take. So till that time, definitely physical branches are 100% required. Along the way, as the digitalization takes evolves more and it gets adopted more and more, the necessity for physical branches may reduce, but would still be required, would always be wanted. See, an Indian would definitely bond with a physical branch more than anything else, and banks would love to keep that touch safe.
And I think trust, right? Trust is also a key to have like a physical presence. We keep hearing that bit during various discussions. So having your bank right near your house, so that whatever you do digitally, you can just walk in and still have a.
I mean, the feeling they're there if you need type of a. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. So maybe as a closing thought, how traditional banks are approaching technology. Maybe we touched upon it slightly, right? So there are two aspects to it. One, some of the core systems that you're building yourselves, and how you're working with other tech partners. You called out fintechs, for example, right? Private banks, I think, are leading their way in some sense. Because I think the processes, and because they are private, of course, gives them that flexibility. But how are traditional banks like you also navigating this course? Would be great to hear, because I am sure a lot of our audience also belong to fintechs and fintech leaders, etc. So wanted to get your perspective probably.
Yeah, I think you mentioned two parts. One is the rural audience, right? How are they evolving? And that's what I said. I also already told that I'm amazed at the way the digitalization is catching up there. The other day, I had a friend of mine visiting me who stays in Bangalore, and we just got into this topic of how life has changed and how she was a banker once and still a banker. And she said, you know what, Srimati, she said, the cash I draw per month is less than 3,000 rupees. I said, don't tell me. I mean, do you really mean? She says, yeah. She said, right from the time I go for my morning walk or do my vegetable shopping to my fruit shopping, everything. Every street vendor, every person, the thangawala, the cart fellow, everybody is sitting with a QR code. She says, even I take a tender coconut by 25 rupees, I do a QR payment. That's how the people have adopted now. So it's happening faster than even we expected. The banks are also are in the drive. The government is giving a good drive on this, and the public is responding. So the rural audience is also taking to this. That is my point on this. Coming to the technology adoption by the public sector banks and others, you might be knowing already. This is also in the government agenda. Both the DFS, the IBA, everybody else is moving. The ease, there's the enhanced access and the service excellence. The ease as this thing is being pushed. In fact, tomorrow, I think next week we have the next round of discussions to launch our ease 5 phase. So that is ease is essentially for facilitating this type of reforms in the banking, more on the digital side. The various areas are given, the best in class score is given as a benchmark rate, and all of us, the smaller banks, the bigger banks, are trying to catch up and get into that type of a thing. And in a mid-sized bank like IOB also, where we weren't really very strong on the IT side, rather we started off very well. We are one of the pioneers who had our own CBS platform thing, and then along the way we lagged behind. Maybe in a year or two, we would catch up with everyone else. And see, the private sector banks and others, maybe state bank like banks, the investment was not an issue. You need a huge investment and the talent. You see, there's a market acquisition talent also. So those are the areas which are still a bit of a constraint, but 100% the boards are there to facilitate. The banks are, touchwood, with all the government support of capital infusion and other things, banks are all in a better position. And right from cloud to your data analytics to artificial intelligence, everything is happening. It's a question of time before the public sector banks catch up fully with the other counterparts, and the entire benefit would obviously go to the public.
Great, ma'am. This is fascinating because I think not just we hear about these stories about artificial intelligence or data analytics, etc., being leveraged only by certain section, but it's very promising to hear that everybody is sort of thinking about it and engaging with the industry leaders to sort of engage. We really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot for, I know this is an extremely busy schedule starting of the financial year. Unless you have any closing comments, I'd like to thank you for taking time out, and I'm sure some aspects that you spoke about here will be really appreciated by the audience here.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be sharing my views on that.
Right.
So both banking and technology are inseparable. That's what I say. Technology is pervaded everywhere.
Absolutely, ma'am. So be it remain, and hope that it finally benefits the end customer as we all intend to. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Really appreciate your time. You have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure to have you with us in this session. Thank you so much, Sriram, for moderating the session.